It's Sierra, aka Book Royal, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Ruby Cycle by Richelle Mead. If you don't know, The Ruby Cycle is the final book in the Bloodline series, which is a spinoff of the Vampire Academy series. This book basically just picks up where the last one left off. Sydney and Adrian still in court, and you kind of get a glimpse into their married life, and it's rough because Sydney can't go outside really because the vampires still obviously do not like her. Likewise, her and Adrian's relationship is suffering a little bit because of this, because neither of them can leave court. Well, I mean, Adrian can't, but he won't leave without Sydney. And also because Adrian's mother is living with them, and that alone in itself is just an adventure. It's clear that while Adrian's mother technically supports her son, she doesn't necessarily support the marriage. But I think she can see that, like, Sydney's, kind of a good girl. And then everything goes crazy when Miss Terwilliger comes. And that's kind of when, things start happening. So that's all I have for non-spoilers mostly. And if you don't want to be spoiled, you should leave right now and then come back and be spoiled, and we'll talk all about the Ruby Circle. Okay, so once Miss Terwilliger comes, everything goes crazy. She's like, there's this note, and as soon as Sydney got the note, I knew that it was Alicia, because I was like, who else, like, besides the alchemist is Sydney's nemesis of all time? Alicia. And especially because we didn't find the body, I knew she was alive. First rule of any fantasy thing ever: if the body isn't found, then they're probably still alive. Even if the body is found, they could still be brought back to life. Basically, no one dies ever, except all the characters that you don't want to die. Miss Terwilliger turns Sydney into a cat and smuggles her out of court, while Adrian is back at court covering for her. Meanwhile, we have Nina struggling a little bit. She's been using like a lot of spirit, and as we know, using a lot of spirit really messes with the mind, things like that. Adrian asks her if she'll stop. Nina is kind of resentful towards him for turning her down, but she's also like more worried about her sister Olive because she's gone missing, and she used to have a thing with Neil, and now Olive just kind of disappeared and no one knows where she's at. And so she's been using all this spirit and spirit dreams to try and get Olive to talk to her, but for some reason, like, the spirit dreams aren't working, or like Olive is able to kind of take control of the dream and like pull herself out of it. And that's really crazy because we haven't really seen anyone who can do that with the dreams. And then there's the whole, why is Olive hiding? I feel like a lot of it, like, before anything really happens, is just kind of build up until we get to this, like, a Dampier commune, and we get Rose there. Like, honestly, my favorite part of books is when, like, the entire, like, squad that's kind of, like, been working, like, separately and everything gets to kind of, like, come back and come together. So they go to this, like, Dampier settlement, and Rose is there, Dimitri's there, Adrian's there, Sydney's there. Like, it's so amazing. I love it. And the funniest part is someone comes up to them and they're like, I know the celebrities. And I just think that's so funny that, like, all of them used to have celebrity status. Like, a few books ago, Sydney mentioned that, like, Dimitri and Rose are, like, obviously, like, superstars within their world. But now it's Adrian and Sydney too. They go to the settlement and they find Olive, who is pregnant. That's so crazy. That was like a really like shocking revelation, and it was game changer. The first thing I thought of, like, while this was happening, was like, okay, so Rose and Dimitri can have kids now. Like, that's when you know you're in too deep, when all you're like is like, well, at least now they can have kids. I knew when she was pregnant, I was like, that has something to do with spirit, because like everything unexplainable somehow ties back to spirit in these books. At this settlement, we also find out who Dimitri's father is, who is, surprise, Adrian's uncle. So they're cousins. Because we know that Dimitri's father is not shit from, like, what Dimitri's told us about him. Like, he was awful to Dimitri's family, and especially to Dimitri's mother. And we meet him, and then Dimitri's like, I'm literally going to beat your ass. And I was like, do it! Do it! But it was just funny because Adrian was like, so, we're cousins, I guess. Like, oh my gosh, what if they have like an Ivashkov like Thanksgiving? That's all I picture, is him like sitting at a table and Dimitri like sulking the whole time and Adrian cracking jokes like, Oh my gosh, that was weird. Like I know that the baby was like the big reveal of the book, but like that was probably second biggest. That was crazy to me. I feel like personally, Olive could have easily told Nina that she was pregnant, you know? Like I don't know. I just think that there was a better way for her to go about it, especially because like Nina's her sister, like, and she was like really worried about her, and like she was like turning like the spirit dreams on her and everything. It was like awful. She was using so much spirit, and it was like hurting her. So I was like, okay, Olive, like I get that you don't want to tell people, especially because like this really is like a game changer within like the Moroi world, and it changes how everything works. But Olive really should have told Nina because she was freaking out. It was really bad. I felt really bad. She was just so desperate. Like she was like, I have to, I have to. I'm so worried about my sister. Just as we are getting to like kind of settle down a little bit on the Dampier settlement, Strigoi come and attack everything, and then things kind of like go crazy from there. The alchemists obviously come to help out, and Olive, she gets really worried because she came to this commune so that no one would really find out that she was pregnant, and so she's in labor basically, and she runs into the woods. I was like, that's literally not a good idea. Like, you never run into the woods. But she ran into the woods, and she ultimately gives birth and then dies, and she asks Adrian to take care of her son. Adrian and Sydney take this baby, and they're pretty like covert about like why they have to take them, and like what the big deal about this baby is and who the father is. So they fly out back to Cali. They meet up with Adrian's mom, who she really comes through in this book. Like in the beginning, she was a little shady, especially to Sydney, and I was like, Sydney really does not need that. But later on, Adrian's mom really just comes through. She's watching baby Declan while like all this action is happening. So Vampire Squad, well, plus Sydney, so Vampire Squad plus Sydney, they figure out that it is Alicia who took Jill, but she had a deal going on with like the Warriors of Light. And they find this out because Sydney and Eddie use like this magical like face altering potion to infiltrate the Warriors of Light. They're crazy. They find out where she's hidden and all of that. They get the alchemists and the Moroi to kind of work together for a moment because they all understand how important it is that, you know, Jill be taken back. They end up going to this like elite like hidden complex where they all bust in and basically try to rescue Jill. Sydney ends up having to fight this like dragon demon monster thingy, and she ends up like bargaining for her and Adrian's like freedom to, you know, just like do them and live happily and live marriedly, since she, you know, helped out everything and basically did the alchemist's job for them and better than them. So she is allowed to live with Adrian on her own, and we see that in the ending when her and Adrian get to live happily ever after. That's the one thing that I like had an issue with in like the ending. Like I thought the ending was so cute and sweet, and they were like all coming in like for the holiday and sitting together, and like they'd all like gone on with their lives. Eddie and Jill all bait up after like, you know, things were happening. It was really cute, and they were obviously like all kind of a big family. Rose and Dimitri were there too. But I felt like Sydney and Adrian were very much people that wanted to travel and kind of see everything. I mean, maybe they did before they settled down, but I doubt it. And I just wish we could have seen that. I always thought it would end kind of with like Sydney and Adrian somehow being able to be free and like traveling around, like doing all these things and like everything like that. But how it ended was still really cute. They had a domestic like world. Sydney is able to take classes, which is something she's always wanted to do, and I was just so happy. I was like, they deserve everything. Like, I'm happy that they're happy, even if it isn't in the way that I thought that they were gonna be happy. It was so cute. The only thing that really bothers me about this book and kind of both series in general is that I feel like Richelle Mead sets up all these systems of injustices and like things that are wrong with like the higher system, and then they're never really addressed. And I could understand if like there was like kind of like a bigger villain, but I felt like the villain is a bit like lukewarm, and their motives are kind of like not good enough motives to be like doing all that they're doing. Like, were their motives really enough to like stand against like the alchemists and everything like that? That was my one thing. but at least Sydney and Adrian and everyone else get a happily ever after. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with my life now that I finished the series, because I only started this series because I had like a huge book hangover after Vampire Academy. I only started Vampire Academy because I had already read the Infernal Devices, and I only read the Infernal Devices because I was not over City of Heavenly Fire. So now what am I gonna do? I read books to get over more books, and now I'm not over this book. Now I'm gonna have to read more books. It's an ugly cycle. It's gross and ugly and an awful cycle, really, truly. That's all I have for the Ruby Circle by Richelle Mead. Thank you so much for watching. I make videos every Friday. And let me know if there's any books or anything that you'd like me to review or tags you'd like me to do. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.